So the countdown is officially over and the anniversary is officially here. We are now 3 years old or 3+ years old in the making. So 6/21/2021 through 6/21/2024. Wow, what a journey it's been. So, I can remember like yesterday sitting in the basement of my old home, trying to figure out what's going on. Why am I down here recording? Who really cares? What's the purpose of this podcast? But I started anyway. And here we are 3 years later, almost 164 episodes, over 109 guests interviewed. And between YouTube and downloads from my podcast, over 25,000 listens or views. So that all started, in the bottom of my basement, 6/21/2021, taking a step really on faith. And here we are now. So I'm really excited. Along this journey, I thought about stopping several times, but I know the reason that I'm here, that really keeps me motivated and keeps me moving. So, we've gotten a lot of accolades, we've gotten a lot of rankings, but it's really due to the consistency that we've shown day in and day out. So just kind of reflecting over the 3 years, the first year was really trying to get my feet wet, trying to figure out the process of producing a podcast, getting guests, recording episodes. And then the second year, I brought on help. So I brought on a virtual assistant and really just started to get into a groove with recording. I really started to get used to hearing myself and hearing my own voice, which was something that was very difficult in the early days. I would be fine with recording people, but never did I want to do a solo episode. So I'd say year 2, I got more comfortable with doing that. And then year 3, I would say that's probably when I really started to view the podcast more as a business. This is the first year that I had for the whole year full sponsorship. Thank you to Pearson Revitz. We've also had other sponsors, but they've been with us this whole last year, and it's really helpful. Also, I'll say year 3 is when people really start seeking me out to be a guest on this podcast or to do a collaboration with my podcast, and really to use my podcast as a platform to launch what they were doing, whatever new ideas, or launching their new podcast right here on my show. So that's definitely a blessing. Also, during year 3, I did my own seminar, virtual seminar with Influent Network. That came from this podcast. And as you know, I'm now part of the Next Level Speakers Academy, which was always a goal of mine. And that's also related to this podcast. So at first starting out, you're just really trying to get the reps in, trying to get episodes out, trying to remain consistent. But really now I'm able to start to leverage this for other opportunities and other business opportunities as well. So 3 years in the making, but here we are. So what I would like to do is, as we talked about earlier, ask for people to share some of their feelings about the podcast, or also share some of the testimonials about what the podcast has done for them or how it's helped them. You will listen to that at the end of the podcast. But I do want to read a few of the people who submitted things in writing. So from a former guest, A. Hill, Derrick has a way of being relatable to all doctors, regardless of their specialty. He connects and shares real-life stories that help other doctors navigate job changes, family and work, and puts hard things in perspective. Another listener said, "It's been an inspiring venture. Your success, I find to be success for many people like us. Don't stop. Keep going. So much adoration and respect for you, Dr. Burgess. I wish I could have met you 10 years ago." So I really appreciate all the feedback I get. I always appreciate the kind words and the keep goings, and we have your back with what you're doing and you're making a positive change. It's always meaningful when I hear people sometimes that I don't even know that are listening to the podcast say, we appreciate what you're doing. It's very important to have your voice and to be able to amplify the voices of others. And that's really what we're here for. as you know the pillars, you can probably recite them by now to help you strengthen your mindset, help you grow your assets, and help you achieve whatever level of success that you want to achieve in your life. So that's what we've done for 3 years, and that's what we will continue to do. So in year 4, some of my goals will be to really have more in-person interviews. That's one thing. To continue to use the stories of others to inspire the audience. But I also want to use my personal story of how I've overcome some things in my past to really hone in on my story and how I've used obstacles and overcome obstacles to achieve what I've achieved so far. So just kind of giving you an inside look, more so into the personal techniques and strategies that I've used. And then one goal that I have is to have an in-person seminar. So I did my first virtual seminar, but I do have a goal of doing an in-person seminar, and hopefully that will happen in the next calendar year. So that's really about it. And we'll close today by hearing from some close family members, some people from the audience, some past guests about what this podcast has meant to them over the last 3 years. So thank you for continuing to follow. Thank you for continuing to log in, continuing to listen every week to this podcast. 3 years, 164 episodes, 109 guests, and over 25,000 views and downloads. And that doesn't even count the people who are consuming this content on social media. And we know that some people will not sit down and listen to a full episode for 20 or 30 minutes, but they will listen to the small clips that we play, the shorts, the reels, and things of that nature. And those are all very important as well to continue to get the message to the masses. So thank you again. Thank you for continuing to rock with me. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Be blessed.
Hey, what's going on? Time Out with the Sports Doctor family. Just wanted to take a moment, just wanted to shout out Dr. Derrick Burgess. And it's difficult to identify just one specific episode, but I just want to commend you as a host for showing up and showing out for 3 years, interviewing guests around real estate, around financial literacy, around sports, athletes, all these different people across all these different landscapes. And I just want to say, man, an amazing job you've done. I've been able to learn a lot tuning into these episodes because I might not necessarily have learned as much about real estate if I didn't take the time to listen to the interview that you had with the young lady who was involved in real estate, or even one of the people that you brought on around financial literacy. These are things that are so essential and so pivotal to be able to hear and to learn. And especially when you have somebody like yourself who's asking questions in this way, it brings about thought process that helps me out. So thanks so much, Dr. Derrick Burgess. Shout out to Time Out with the Sports Doctors. 3 years running, that's impressive. It's your podcast mentor, Jonathan Jones. Peace, and God bless.
Happy 3rd anniversary for the Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. I have been listening to this podcast since my dad has started. It makes me so proud to hear all the amazing things that he does on his podcast. I love all the different topics that he has been putting on his podcast, from athletes to real estate. Thank you for all you have done. It's teaching me a lot. I mean a lot. Because I would listen to it anywhere. I would listen to it on my Apple Watch, on my phone. I love listening to his podcast. It makes me so happy when I hear all the things he has to say. So, happy 3rd anniversary for your Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. I can't wait to see what other wonders you will complete.
Hi everyone, I am Lynn of Podcast VAs Philippines, and I am the producer for Time Out with the Sports Doctor. Although I did not have the chance to actually launch the podcast with Dr. Burgess, we joined the team a year later. And I can still vividly remember when I was talking to Dr. Burgess, we were just discussing how we can help him. And little did I know it was a long time partnership coming. I am so glad to be able to be among the people that helped produce the podcast. And we have learned a lot of things on the podcast episode as we go along, not only from Dr. Burgess, but also from the guests. I really like the episodes on the financial side with Dr. Shaleb and the other guests that are promoting financial knowledge and wisdom. And at the same time, I also like the solo episodes of Dr. Burgess, wherein he gets a little more personal about his episodes. So yeah, congratulations, Dr. Burgess. We are so happy to be able to be partnering with you on the Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. You are among the diligent clients that we have that continuously record and never stops recording. That is a daily commitment that you have to do to be able to be consistent and be at more than 100 episodes now. So keep it up, and congratulations on all the achievements that you have with the podcast.
Happy 3rd anniversary to the podcast. I've enjoyed watching you grow through those 30 years, and I've enjoyed all the people that you've had on the podcast, all the different topics that you've talked about. It's really helped me understand different ways of how to do stuff, and I've enjoyed being your helper with all your videos, and I can't wait to see the many things that you're going to do in the future.
So where do we start with the mentorship of Dr. Burgess and his motivational speaking? I think more for Dr. Burgess is more how he lives his life every day. At Saber Bats, he speaks with us because it's a family business, and he's my best friend. But my kids have seen him, along with myself, on the sidelines of a ball game. To kids he's never gonna, they're not his kids. He just cares about them. And then in the conversation, I've seen him run onto the field when a referee had a heart attack, literally died. He resuscitated him, comes back like it's nothing, just calm, cool, collected. That's who he is. That's what he does as a living, and he cares about people. As a person, when all of the world became at a place of unrest for a couple years ago, I reached out and said, Dr. Burgess, we got to sit and talk. And not many doctors, especially high-level doctors like himself, would just sit and have a conversation with me. And he tried to see my side, and I tried to see his side. And at the end of the day, we agreed that no matter what we saw, we agree that both sides are important to understand, at least attempt to understand. And at the end of the day, we're still best friends. And that's just the way he lives his life. As a physician, as a person, as a husband, and as a father, and just, you really can't say enough about Dr. Burgess and just how he lives his life. And for me, that's more motivational, that's mentorship, and that's really what he brings to the world, to his practice, to his family, and pretty much to everybody that he comes in contact with.
Hi everyone, my name is Princess. I am a podcast editor of Time Out with the Sports Doctor. First of all, I want to say congratulations, Dr. Burgess. I am so happy that you're still with us on your 3rd year podcast anniversary. We've been working for almost 2 years, and you're right, consistency is the key. We have learned so many things from your podcast, from your solo episodes, or even when you have a guest. Thank you for sharing with us the topics about financial management, health, sports, mindset, or even about marriage. Congratulations again, and continue to share the knowledge that you have.
Good morning, Dr. Burgess. I want to say congratulations, first of all, on 3 years. And I claim many more to come. Thank you for taking time out each day to make the podcast that you make. For anybody who's a goal setter, who's serious about accomplishing their goals on a day-to-day basis, the podcast helps tremendously. I mean, it's certain things that we hear on your podcast that reminds us on the journey that we're on with you. You are a pioneer, a light. One of the episodes that affected me the most was your granddad telling you about the torch, passing you the torch in podcasting, in radio. Definitely in your background, in your blood, man. We appreciate you, man. I want you to keep going. We love you, man. God bless.
I'm Camille, and I'm the show notes writer of Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast. And I've learned so many things while writing show notes for the weekly episodes. It's a win, like getting paid while learning through every success stories of wonderful people in how they overcome challenges, how they reach their goals, and really made a difference in the world. It really enriched my perspective in seeing adversities. There's this episode that still stands out in my mind and really made me realize a lot of things. That solo episode during graduation season, One thing that was mentioned there was learning to appreciate your progress, to not be complacent because success doesn't come overnight. And so I have to thrive to achieve my own version of success. Reminding myself of those things help me get through every bad times. And I pray for Time Out with the Sports Doctor podcast to continue encouraging more lives and be a blessing.
Hi, my name is Charles Black, and I enjoy listening to Time Out with the Sports Doc for a bunch of different reasons. I enjoy the wide variety of topics that are discussed, from a professional development perspective and from a personal perspective. I really appreciate the topics about mental health, appreciate the topics about financial literacy, planning, and also really enjoy the conversation about human existence and the human ability to succeed against great odds and against extreme measures. I highly recommend the podcast Time Out with the Sports Doc to family and friends, and look forward to seeing what the future has to offer. Thank you, Dr. Burgess, for providing us with this platform. I think a wise person said it's the podcast that I didn't know I needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace.
Hey, time out with the sports doc. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine